Waking up one morning and finding out you're broke, not because of a fire or a robbery or a business deal gone wrong. No, you lost everything because someone, somewhere swapped your SIM card and looted your life from inside a prison cell. Now, this is not some hacker movie set in Silicon Valley. This is real life Kenya 2025. A senior police officer, a widowed mother, a medical scientist abroad, all robbed by voices over the phone. Voices armed with stolen data, spoofing software, and zero remorse. This isn't petty theft. This is an empire, one that runs on fake names, borrowed lives, and your mobile number. Welcome to Kenya's phone scam empire, and it's stealing from millions, maybe even you. January 4th, 2022, Peter Mwanzo, a respected Nairobi cop, receives a few weird calls from unknown numbers. He sighs, puts his phone on airplane mode, and 5 minutes later, he turns it back on, and nothing. No signal, no network, no warning. By the time Peter figures it out, it's over. 597,100 Kenya shillings vanished in 6 hours. The withdrawals all traced back to Mulot, a quiet little town no one expected to become a fraud capital of Kenya. What makes this terrifying? Peter didn't share his PIN, he didn't click any shady link, and didn't even touch his phone. And yet, his money gone, his accounts hijacked. Even Fuliza loans were taken in his name. No blood, no violence, just a perfectly executed digital heist. And Peter, the man trained to catch criminals, just became the newest victim in Kenya's phone scam war. But if Peter was just the prey, who are the predators? To find them, we head deep into the forgotten town where scamming is not a crime, it's a career path. Welcome to Mulot, a place where most Kenyans had never heard of until it became synonymous with SIM swap hell. Nestled quietly between Bomet and Narok counties, Mulot looks like your average countryside town, but inside its shops and rented houses, crime schools are in session. In 2023, a police raid here unearthed 14 unused SIM cards, 9 used Safaricom lines, 11 national ID cards, and notebooks filled with victim blueprints. Names, PINs, loan limits, bank details, birth dates. It was like someone took Kenya's private data and printed it into a scammer's cookbook. Two of the masterminds, Kevin Kiplangat, also known as Elvis, Ivan Kiprotich Chirchir, also known as Prochio, both arrested in 2024, not random street thugs, but operators in a professional crime network that stretches nationwide. Mulot doesn't steal from locals, it launders money from across Kenya. When Peter Mwanzo's cash disappeared, it was withdrawn here, 200 kilometers from his home. So, if Mulot is the factory, what's their favorite product? A single scam so deadly it can steal your life while you are asleep. Next up, the SIM swap con that fuels the entire empire. What if I told you the number one way Kenyans are being robbed is through their own SIM cards? This is SIM swap fraud, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The process, they spoof your identity using leaked ID data, then they bribe a corrupt Safaricom representative or fake a police report. Then they replace your SIM card and take over everything: M-Pesa, Fuliza, bank OTPs, and loan apps. One guy who perfected this art, Fortune Muthina Kinyanzui, also known as Albanas Chalo. He ran a syndicate that stole 11.8 million shillings using spoofing software costing over 500,000 Kenya shillings. His side hustle, renting out software airtime to accomplices like some dark version of Netflix and charging 16,000 Kenya shillings every day. Earnings up to 120,000 Kenya shillings a day, while his victims lose everything. Victims like a retired Ministry of Lands employee who lost 2.3 million shillings, a woman in Nakuru who lost 1.2 million shillings, and a medical scientist in Joburg who was left living on yogurt after losing 2.6 million shillings. This is not just about the money, it's about dignity, safety, and survival. But how far does the road go? What if I told you some of the biggest scam networks in Kenya are not just operating from the streets, but from inside maximum security prisons? Let's get something straight. If you thought Kenya's phone scam syndicate was run from a secret basement or a dimly lit cyber cafe, think again. The real masterminds, they're doing time, maximum security time. Meet Committee Prison, or as fraud victims now call it, Scam Central. Here, inmates are not just serving sentences, they're running call centers from contraband phones. And not just a few bad apples, authorities estimate that over 70% of mobile fraud in Kenya can be traced to prison phones. So, how do they get phones in? Easy. Bribe a warden, smuggle in SIM cards, use unsuspecting relatives as data mules, and sometimes just pay off a guy who's supposed to be enforcing the rules. Here's the wildest part. When victims like Monica Kanyi or Peter Mwanzo got that call or that fake M-Pesa message, there's a solid chance the voice was dialing from a jail cell. Think about it. You are getting robbed by a guy who has no shoes, no internet, and no right to own a phone. But not all scams come from behind bars. Some are cooked up in full daylight, in cyber labs disguised as internet cafes with fake identities by tens of thousands. You've heard of Fuliza. Now, meet the Fuliza Fraud Factory. Let's talk about Fuliza, the mobile overdraft that saved millions from embarrassment at the checkout line. When left in the wrong hands, it might become the goldmine for organized crime. In early 2023, police officers raided a fraud hub in Kitale, the ringleader Peter Gitai. His side hustle, cooking up 123,000 fake mobile numbers in a single month. That is not a typo. That is a full-blown mobile zombie army. Here is how the scam works. They register fake SIM cards using forged IDs and then enroll them in Fuliza. They build a fake credit history with staged transactions. After hitting maximum loan limits, they ghost. SIM cards vanish and debts never paid. Recovered assets included 1,000 Safaricom registration forms, over 200 ATM cards, 6 laptops, 7 routers, and Subarus, Proboxes, Makexes, because apparently crime does pay until it doesn't. One suspect, Kipkirui, withdrew 3.1 million Kenya shillings from a single account using over 97,000 wallets. That's not a hacker, that's a finance minister of fraud. And the worst part, legitimate users, real people, are now flagged, delayed, or even denied loans because the system is flooded with ghost debt. But fraud is not just code and cash, it's also psychology. To beat a scammer, you have to think like one. So let's meet the digital predators hiding behind your phone screen. Who becomes a scammer? The shocking truth, most aren't your typical criminals. They're young, smart, educated, even talented. Some can code in Python, others build apps, a few studied cybersecurity in college, but instead of defending systems, they broke them. Why? Desperation, status, and the promise of easy money. In places where jobs are rare and quick cash is king, fraud becomes the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme. And soon, it's not just a crime, it's culture. One insider, Kevo, bragged to investigators, "Scamming is just like betting, it's odds, bro. You win or you don't. But when you win big." There's even some training happening in prison. Seasoned cons teaching newcomers how to spoof calls, manipulate emotions, and fake being Safaricom representatives or bankers with Eliud Kipchoge level performance. And these predators are scripted. Some keep detailed notebooks with lines like, "Hello madam, congratulations, you've just won a loyalty reward." Victims, they are seen as marks, easy targets, and the moral compass completely fried. These scammers justify everything. One says they are greedy. If you fall for it, you deserve it. Banks and telcos steal more anyway. But make no mistake, these are not harmless jokers. They're emotional snipers, exploiting hope, fear, grief, even love, and leaving the victims broke, broken, and betrayed. So, how do they get away with it? What makes SIM swap fraud nearly impossible to stop, even for the victims who do everything right? Next up, the master key to Kenya's wallets and how it's been turned against us. A SIM card, that little chip you barely think about, is the single point of failure in Kenya's digital life. Banking, linked. M-Pesa, linked. Fuliza, Timiza, KCB, Mshwari, all linked. So what happens when someone clones that chip? They don't just steal your number, they become you. And this is not guesswork. They have inside help, sometimes from rogue Safaricom agents, sometimes from criminals with access to government databases. Like Peter Gitai's ring, they had so much access they could pre-fill loan forms, spoof identity verifications, even bypass KYC checks. And once your SIM is swapped, your phone goes, no service. You can't receive bank OTPs, and in less than 30 minutes, your money is gone. Even worse, victims often blame themselves, not knowing the system was rigged against them from the start. But SIM swaps are not just one weapon. Some scams don't need humans at all, just an app. Next up, the malware-laced loan apps, infecting millions of Kenyan phones, one disparate download at a time. Let's say your kid is sick, you've got 1,000 Kenya shillings left and no savings. You Google Quick Loan Apps Kenya. And boom, just like that, apps like Fair Cash, K Credit, and iPesa pop up. Professional logos, 5-minute approvals. All promising fast cash, but behind the glossy interface, spy loan malware. These apps are more than predatory lenders, they are data vampires. Here's what they steal when you hit accept: your contacts, your location, your photos, calendar, clipboard data, or even your microphone and camera access. Then they start the psychological warfare. Take Grace, a mother from Babadogo. She borrowed 1,500 Kenya shillings to save her son and only received 1,050 Kenya shillings after fees. 7 days later, she started being threatened with public shaming. Or John Bigingi, a taxi driver, let on a 8,200 Kenya shillings loan. The app called his wife, his boss, his brother, all in one day. The SMS read, "Your 50 contacts will receive 20 calls at exactly 6 p.m. Pay now or face shame." One man in 2019 even took his own life after his mother and grandmother were bombarded with threats. That's not lending, that's digital extortion. So, what's being done about this? Is the government finally catching up, or are we just plugging holes in a sinking ship? In 2024, Kenya finally said enough. Operation Serengeti, led by Interpol, made over 1,000 arrests across Africa, including 24 in Kenya. The bust uncovered SWIFT-linked bank transfers, shell companies in United Arab Emirates, China, Nigeria, millions lost to credit card fraud, and prison-to-prison syndicate networks. At home, the DCI and CBK ramped up action. 124,000 suspicious SIM cards shut down. 33 Safaricom employees fired for fraud. Mobile loan apps licenses cut from 480 plus to 51. Even Safaricom stepped up. SIM swap lock, voice biometrics, partnered fraud hotlines with banks. But here's the problem, the system still bleeds. One case in Bomet collapsed because prosecutors missed 14-day telecom data deadline. Others, the suspects were already back in business before the ink dried. Because this is not just a crime wave, it's a crime economy, and dismantling it takes more than arrests, it takes a cultural shift. And that's where you come in. Because the war against phone scams might just be the defining fight of our digital future. The worst part about being scammed is not losing your money. It's violation of trust, of safety, of identity. Like Monica Kanyi, the mother of 6 who borrowed 20,000 Kenya shillings for a fake lottery prize and was left praying outside a police station, broke and humiliated. Like Farah Bashir, stranded in Johannesburg, sipping yogurt and crying alone because 2.6 million vanished overnight. Or the widow whose dead husband's SIM card was fraudulently revived and used to take loans in his name. These are not just statistics. These are your neighbors, your parents, you. But here's the good news. Awareness is spreading. Communities are staging plays to warn others. Victims are becoming advocates. Even Peter Mwanzo, the officer who was scammed, now teaches fraud prevention seminars. Because once you know how the scam works, you can break the cycle. At its core, Kenya's phone scam empire is not just a story of fraud. It's a story of power versus vulnerability, access versus trust, opportunity versus exploitation. We built one of the world's most advanced mobile money ecosystems, and the criminals learned how to ride it like a stolen car. But we can outsmart them.